one question came from the chat, which I'm gonna pose, and then I want to put my question on top of it, which
Okay.
is someone asked, does it just get harder from here then? Right? Like, you and I feel like there's been a bunch of times that we've spent time together being like, oh, is this the last thrashes of a dying shark? Because they're always the most intense. And yet I really feel like the 2 gentlemen, and I am calling out their gender in this conversation, missed that quick U-turn that could have really flown. I think it was, to me, the missed opportunity. I hear you on, like, they being gentle and taking the time, and it's gonna, and, like, Ezra's in, like, minute 1 of another whole new process for himself. But as we are being rage farmed, we've also been story farmed, right? Our stories about ourselves, whether it's been like the beliefs of our entitlement or what's owed to us or what it means to be American, or not the survival of the fittest, but the survival of the slickest. Like all of those things are baked in, as somebody else referenced in the comments.
Mhm.
And this is where you and I still differ. And I think this is still a truth or a death that I'm not willing to embrace, which is I believe that if not for the grace of God, I could be born into another family and have a certain life experiences that told me a very dramatically different story that the
Mhm.
algorithm now supports and lifts up. But my like North Star, which the most the people who have risked their lives for the greater good seem to be locked on to, which is all of we are all the same. We are all wrestling with the same thing, that our humanity is the same, that like our greatest task in this life is to love ourselves enough so that we can love others. Baldwin said constantly, if as soon as white people stopped hating themselves, we would no longer have to find somebody else to hate so we didn't have to hold up a mirror to
Mm.
ourselves. And I really feel like as Ezra was desperate to politicize the conversation, and Charlie Kirk and what's happening on the right and what the left isn't doing in response to it, is that there isn't a individual accountability exercise that anybody is raising their hand to do.
Mm.
I wanted there to be this left turn back on like the biggest left voice, or U-turn back on the biggest left voice, Ezra being like, "Are you too enamored with evil and the power that that has?" Because that's a human thing. Every single person gets lured by power and fame and lust and greed. I mean, they're not listed in the Bible and all of the other scripture for no reason.
That's right.
I mean, that's what all tonight is supposed to be about, and all tomorrow for the Jews being like, when were you talking shit about people? When were you judging? When did you say the thing you didn't need to? That's what the
Mhm.
next 24 hours is. And it's to forgive ourselves. And to me, that feels so much more powerful than any left oriented strategy around like regerrymandering, or let's get more pro life candidates into Oregon. I don't know. So does it just get harder from here? Hey, Jason, where are you in the world,
It
my friend?
it doesn't it it gets harder and it gets easier, and then it gets harder, and then it gets easier, and then it gets harder, and then it gets easier. If you added up and quantified the value of the slave trade in the United States of America in today's dollars, it would be $42 trillion. Trillion, not billion, not million, trillion dollars. How did a system that undergirded the entire establishment of the United States, that funded every industry, some of which you can trade companies back right now, all the way back to slavery, how did that system fall? How did it fall? At the time, it must have felt impossible. It must have felt hopeless, at the very least improbable. But it did fall, right? And so then fast forward, Civil War, terrible. Fast forward, black president. Amazing. Like that, it's gonna be up and down and up and down and up and down. All you can do is gird your loins, people. All you could do is ride the wave, is figure out. I'm always struck. One of the most beautiful things about slavery. Can I give you like one beautiful thing about slavery? In the midst of that horror, the torture, the brutalization, the dehumanization, they still jumped the broom. They couldn't get married. They couldn't get like nobody would do a service for them. They went and got a broom. They put a broom down, held hands, and they jumped over the broom, and then they were married. That is finding joy in the most horrific of circumstances. So, can we do it with our Lululemon and our Starbucks? I think we can. I think we can. I think we can. I think we can. Am I encouraging them, or am I saying, oh my God, ain't it awful? We'll never get through this. This is terrible. That's not true. That's just not true. I don't believe it and I don't live like that. And I think that if we could figure out how to not be so susceptible, and not to be so fragile, not to be so you cannot, what's that beautiful quote? The lion doesn't react to the barking of the dog. We are reacting to the barking of every single dog, things we don't even care about, things that we're not even passionate about, like get front billing, top billing in our lives. And I'm just really trying to focus what's actually important. I know you know what's going on in every news. You know what Pete Hegseth said to the generals, but what's happening at the school down the street from your house? Do you know? Like so there's a work, a habit, a bias towards work that I want people to adopt. That is harder when you're getting barraged with all of this rage bait, but the work still needs to happen and it needs to continue regardless.